Investor Intelligence provides general information only. You should consider seeking independent advice to see how this information relates to your unique circumstances. Please refer to the terms and conditions available at investorintelligence.com.au for more.
Welcome to this week's episode of Investor Intelligence, your weekly podcast on all things investment, hosted by me, Jacob Kearns. Hey guys, we've got an interesting episode for you today. We're a little late, but this is in celebration of Kindness Week, which was a couple of weeks ago. Some quick statistics I want to point out before we start. A whopping 37% of young people are lonely today, which loneliness is a silent killer. And in Australia, we were ranked second in overall happiness in 2021, whereas in 2023, just 2 years later, we have moved down from second down to ninth, which is a big drop in just 2 years. So with me today, I have the senior lecturer in economics at the University of Wollongong, Dr Reetu Verma, and she's going to be discussing some interesting concepts and ideas. And I encourage everyone to listen to this with an open mind and try and take at least one thing away from this to implement into your lives. And I hope you enjoy. So with that, I'll introduce to you my guest for today. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Reetu Verma.
Thank you for having me here.
Can you explain to us a little bit about how the economy is traditionally measured and what issues there are around that?
Sure, Jacob. So at the moment, we have a measurement called GDP, which is the gross domestic product. It takes into account the goods and services produced at a specific time period by a country. So GDP is got to do with the production, the consumption, and it's putting in a dollar value to it. It's a monetary value, let me just point out. Now, what it misses out with GDP, it doesn't take into account factors such as people who are doing the great voluntary work. And COVID was the time where all the volunteers came in and helped everybody out. It doesn't take into account what I'd say the homemakers, so the housewives' contributions, the house husbands' contributions, the nurturing, taking care of the young ones who are going to be our future leaders.
And what's the issue with just measuring economic output and not factoring the volunteers and the house husbands and wives?
Everybody to think about the bigger picture. What does an economy consist of? It consists of people. Whether you're a producer or a consumer or the middle person, we are all people. And all of us make a contribution in a unique way. So not including the volunteers and the housewives and husbands really misses out on the big picture of humanity, all right? So we are measuring the economy by GDP, a monetary value. It talks about goods and services, which is absolutely great because it's talking about our economic health. However, who is our economy? Our economy is you, me, all the people around. Okay, so what's missing there is the humanity aspect of it, the well-being aspect of it, the health aspect of it. And I want to go a little bit broader than that. Besides for the people, let's include our environment, our planet. All right? If we don't have a thriving earth, our people are not going to have their health and well-being. After all, my realization has come to that we are all interconnected. So we need to shift away from just using GDP as a measurement for an economy and move towards more humanity indexes, health and well-being indexes such as that. Our planet, how is it doing? Is it thriving or is it just surviving? Are we using our resources?
And so with the way the economy is traditionally measured, as you said, by GDP, maybe I'm missing a point here, but if we're measuring the money that's going into the economy, would that not then flow back to the consumer and to the people, which means they can use that to better their own health and wellness in a way?
The idea sounds great, but let's look at the economy. At the moment, we've got high rates of stress, anxiety, and depression. Okay. Look at what happened to our elderly in aged care. Look at what is happening to our environment. We hear it all the time around the media. If we don't take action, there's going to be global warming and there's going to be issues. If we have pollution around, where's that coming? Pollution's coming to us. That's the oxygen we are breathing, Jacob. There's our health. So is it flowing to the people is a question that I could be asking. Inequality is increasing. We have the highest rate of people living in poverty at the moment. And if you look at people who are on the list of housing, to get housing, the commissions, it's ever increasing and the length of time is increasing as well. So if you look at all these issues, is it actually flowing back to the people which it's supposed to? So the idea is great, but is it doing that? Not what the statistics are showing us. And could you see around the COVID time, and this is a great reminder, we all got together and it was the non-profit organizations, the volunteers which gave their time, which helped the needy, okay? So, and those kind of things don't actually get measured, such as the volunteers, as I mentioned. You know, the parents who take time off to nurture their kids, you know, need to spend time educating them. So we're all people, planet, we're all one. So what I'm saying is, besides GDP, there are other measures we can start looking at.
Okay. And so what measures would you suggest we look at? And do you suggest looking at them instead of GDP or as well as GDP?
GDP is a very important measure. So, but we need to expand that. So I'm not saying we replace it, but our focus needs to go on other measures. I mean, as human beings, I want you to think, what do we want? We want to be happy. We want to have the connection from one to the other. We want a thriving planet. And it's absolutely made clear, especially the younger generation, are fighting to have sustainability, because without a thriving planet, they don't have a future. So there's plenty of measurements, and I think we need to start using an umbrella of measurements which comes under well-being, such as the happiness index, such as the health index. Thinking out loud, there's a happy planet index.
Okay.
There's a thriving index to look at whether the country is actually thriving, okay? And as I said, there's a happy planet index which measures not only the human well-being, but also our planet's well-being, because we're all interconnected. Planet thrives, people are going to thrive. People thrive, planet's going to thrive, and our whole economy is going to thrive now. So we need a balance here, because ecology and economy, we need to start taking a balance into those things. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay. And to your point before, with using GDP as a measure, do you think it hinders those aspects because people are incentivized to work more, to maybe sacrifice their health so they can earn more and get more done?
Absolutely, exactly. So we're working more. We want to increase our productivity because we want economic growth. Growth has been our motto, which is great. I'm not saying anything against it. But is that growth coming at cost of the people, as you mentioned, health and well-being? Is it coming at a cost of our environment? And we are doing this growth thing Okay? But if we don't have a planet, if we don't have happy people, if we don't have healthier people, what's going to happen to our economy anyway? Productivity is going to reduce. We're going to have more sick people, which we are going to be paying for them to be in the hospital. So the idea is to become proactive and actually think, okay, while we are going for growth, it is actually helping us humans. Is it helping people? Is it helping a planet? Is what the question I want everybody to start thinking about what we're actually doing. So it's about awareness and being mindful everything we do. So growth is important. I'm not saying it's not, but so is our health, well-being, happiness, thriving of our people and our planet, and perhaps start thinking rather than growth, shared prosperity.
Sort of just touched on this before, but what effect do you think cultivating a mindset of growth and well-being would have on the GDP?
It's only going to get better, okay? Because once you look at human and, they used to talk about human development index first. Once you develop the human, okay, through skills, through jobs, better health, keeping them happy, the productivity is going to increase.
Right.
Which is going to have a flow-on effect. And if you look at the research out there, okay, happier, healthier people are a lot more productive. Where is that going to flow on? To our economy. Growth will happen. So switch around. And Jacob, I'm just going to pick you on a point you mentioned about mindset. Now, what I really want people to do is actually start using their heart set as well.
Okay.
Okay? Mind looks at achieving. It looks at growth. It looks at profits. It looks at power. While our heart is where the connection comes from. Okay? Our heart is going to look at human to human. That is where we're going to find the concentration on life within us and on the planet. It's going to look at health. It's going to look at well-being. It's going to look at quality of life. It's going to look at how we can thrive. So we talk a lot about mindset. I want people to start using their heart set. And I'm just going to read out what the World Health Organization said. World Health Organization, the governing body of the world on health, they are saying there is calls for well-being to be at the heart of economic recovery. So post-COVID, if we want to go back to economic recovery, well-being would need to be at the heart. Well-being can't come from your mindset, my dear. It has to come from that feeling that we have inside of us.
Right.
That's what gives us the connection.
This all makes a lot of sense, and I agree with everything you've said. How can businesses adopt this kind of framework into the way that they operate?
Turn things around. Turn things around. All right. Things around need to change, and perhaps the mindset can come here. It is what is good for our people? What is good for our planet? So we shift from that power, from that profits mindset to a mindset of purpose, of helping each other, the purpose of looking after our environment, that is a planet, and prosperity. Shared prosperity for all. Everybody like that, because if everybody's thriving, that's going to make you happier, it's going to make you healthier, the productivity is increased. And as a byproduct, by the way, the economy is going to be much better because it's people, the country's people are happy.
Right.
That is where we can shift around. So my urge to the policymakers are actually start using their heart set, start using their heart to make policies, start looking at a bigger picture. Okay, have a vision of what they want to see for their country. And no matter who you talk to, it has to be about people. It has to be about planet. Okay? So have your GDP as a measure, but add other measures and give them at least equal importance, if not more. Okay? We hear in pockets. There was a wellbeing report out. There was an intergenerational report out. And what I'm finding is everything is reactive. We need to become proactive. In health, they say, prevention is better than cure. So if we have a vision, if we look at the bigger picture, then we can start looking at policies before we hit the rock bottom.
Okay. So are you suggesting, you touched on it before as well, having these measures as well as GDP, are they integrated with one another? Are they measurables? Are they variables you can measure against each other, or is it just measuring each thing in isolation? Like, how does that work?
It's a very good question, actually. We do have many indexes. They are mainly isolated. Okay, and that's what I'm suggesting, that one measurement you cannot take and say what the economy is like. So I am suggesting a range of measurements need to be looked at. As I mentioned, there's an happiness index, there's a happy planet index, but all of them take a few indicators. The biggest thing that we could discuss is go to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which I may add the University of Wollongong is part of that. Now, why I'm saying the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is because they're universal, they're global goals. And this age of technology and connectivity around the globe being made easy, we could use Sustainable Development Goals as your measurement. There are 17 goals, and then there are a number of key indicators underneath that. And that's GDP doesn't look at any of those 17 goals. We've got poverty, no poverty, good health and well-being, which has been looked at the moment. It's huge. Education is come out forefront again. But what about responsible consumption and production? I'm just looking here at my GDP chart. Life on land, life below water, people, justice, strong institutions, partnerships. Okay? Does GDP look at any of that? And honestly, the everything that I'm talking about, even Happy Planet Index, it takes into account inequality and talk about ecological footprints. It talks about well-being of a planet. But if you're talking about these Sustainable Development Goals, which they have specific targets till 2030, GDP, and none of them look at that. So as a country, again, our leaders need to make a decision on what they're going to look at, and it goes way, way, way beyond GDP.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think it seems like a no-brainer to start integrating a lot of that stuff into the way we measure economic output, because that's what's most important, right? The quality of life of each one of us. But how can us as individuals cultivate that heart set and shift from a more this way of living? Or is it more up to the policymakers to outline policies to put in place? Is there anything we can do to adjust our lives?
Absolutely. Everyone can make a difference. And if every single person starts making that shift from the mindset to a heart set, as a collective, it's going to become stronger and stronger and stronger. And don't forget, it's the people's voice. So if it's not coming from the top down, we can take it from the bottom up. The government is for the people. So if enough of us have a voice, enough of us start working, it becomes stronger collectively. And my solution to the planet people connection is about raising our consciousness to a higher level where we realize that we are all one. And just think about it, Jacob. One person in your family who's not well, how many people are affected? Ripple effect. On the other hand, If an individual is thriving, it takes its family along with it and generations along with them. So each of us can make a difference is by cultivating those core values which emanate from the heart, such as cooperation instead of competition, compassion, all right, collaboration. Individual, we can do things. 2 people together becomes better. 3 people, stronger, and so on. So collectively, if we all grow and take care of ourselves and our planet, it's going to work. And we can send a message out to policymakers. They'll have no choice but to change. If, Jacob, you go out there and plant a seed, that's 1. But if I go in there, that's 2. If I drag a few more people, what's happening? 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to give you an example. Yesterday, we were doing a kindness workshop, which I was facilitating. So we had a discussion that roughly there'd be about 15 million adults in Australia. If each person did 1 random act of kindness, just 1, we'd had 15 million random act of kindness. Now, are you telling me that would make a difference in people's lives?
No. I think it would.
Exponential growth, it will happen. So, but somebody's got to start somewhere.
And so is that what it's all about? Just trying to foster as individuals? Of course, policy is another thing, but I mean, we can only help in our own ways. So do you have any other practical advice on how we can contribute to this adoption?
Yes. So each of us can start growing and evolving to a better human being. In fact, before we jumped on, you actually mentioned that you're doing your bit. So as individuals, we can start empowering ourselves. We can start taking care of ourselves and our surroundings. Now, I can't go and tell that to my neighbours, but in-house, I can take care of myself and my surroundings. Every little bit happens. With this, what is happening is, we've had exponential growth in technology and artificial intelligence. But us humans also need to grow and evolve and become a better human being, rise to a higher consciousness. And if we don't, we really can't keep up with the changes that's happening around us. A human brain is powerful, but unless we grow, we won't be able to cope up with the exponential increase in technology. And we all know AI is already here.
Yeah.
Okay? So if AI is going to do our assignments and clean our houses, the robots, what us humans have got to do? We don't need a head because everything's been done for us. You press a button and the robot will clean our house. We press a button, it does an assignment. So our minds can be free, but to connect human to human and start looking after environment, start cultivating that compassion, the kindness, the love, the joy. And realistically, it's our original nature. There's nothing new about it. That is our original nature. And if we let our heart lead and our mind follow, it is going to have flow-on effects to our people. It's going to have flow-on effect to our planet. And we have thriving, healthier, happy people. What's going to happen? Our economy is just going to grow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I know that's not the point you're making, is that the growth to an extent doesn't matter as much as, us as human beings. But it's interesting that you frame it in a way that when we focus on ourselves, then the growth will inevitably happen.
Exactly. So if you're growing, think about it. If you're happy and you're healthy and you've got a really great environment when you go into work, your productivity is going to increase. And again, if you look at the scientific research out there, it says that. And people are actually trying out in other countries working 4 days a week, because that allows us to have a bit of a rest, our minds to de-stress, our bodies to enjoy the nature, okay? Come back more positive, gives us time to look after our family. After all, we want to give enough time to our families. We want to give that quality time for our kids. So 4 days a week, if that it gives you increased productivity than working 5-6 days a week, why not? Quality of life measurements.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Do you have anything you'd like to add to any of this, Reetu?
Look, what I'd just like to say out there to anybody who's interested is change can happen, and it does happen. Except we need to have masses here, collective increase of consciousness. So I'm going to give you one example. If you remember smoking, it was a norm to smoke everywhere, including airlines. But when the collective consciousness started looking at that, raising awareness about the damages of that, what has happened?
Stopped.
No buildings, exactly. So change can happen, and little things goes bigger. And it's a ripple effect. You throw a pebble on the pond, can you see those ripples? So what I'm saying to everybody is please start cultivating that heart set, okay? Because that's where the joy comes from. That's where the connection of love comes from. Compassion, empathy. And if we let our heart lead and our mind follow, that is when you're going to get a happier, healthier, prosperous people and planet.
Yeah, amazing. Well,
that's simple for me.
It definitely does make a lot of sense, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about this, Reetu. Do you have any sort of resources or books that you would recommend?
Oh, there's plenty out there, There's plenty out there. Try doing a heart center meditation, all right? Really feel your heart. Heart is what gives us life. Have you ever felt that life inside of you? One of my favorite books is by Dr. Wayne Dyer called Inspiration. Okay. So if you're looking for heart set tools, heart-centered meditation, reading a book, Inspiration, some great music, high vibration music to lift you, all right? And the best thing is to go outside and connect to nature. As I mentioned, we're all one. It's the Mother Earth which has been nurturing us. It's been providing us. It's our turn to make sure we look after our Mother Nature so we can still get that protection. Go out and enjoy the outdoors. Connect, human to human. Listen to somebody who is in trouble. Lend them a hand. That's all I'm saying. And simple. I mean, it's just a reminder. We all know how to do it, but because we're so busy and so conditioned, we need to be in time, we need to be at work, and we have so many responsibilities, we forget about the simple pleasures of just being.
Yeah, amazing. Well, this has been a great conversation, and I appreciate you coming on and discussing this with us. Hopefully we can all take something away and implement this into our own lives.
That'd be great. Thank you for having me, Jacob. You
Thanks.
Take care.
If you found this episode or any of our episodes helpful, please make sure to share and leave a rating to help us reach more people on their investing journeys. And of course, subscribe to be notified when new episodes drop. Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at Investor Intelligence Podcast. You can find links to our other socials in the show notes, including a link to the Property Mentors weekly blog. If you're ready to get your property portfolio in shape for financial freedom, check out Luke's latest book, Property Fit. You can get yourself a copy at www.propertyfitbook.com.au.